if you follow the media, celebrities, rappers, entertainers, news sources, social media, you would think that Donald Trump is insane and he's, oh my God, he hates immigrants and he's so terrible, he's so racist, and wow, Donald Trump is such a crazy leader. But the truth is that everything that Donald Trump's talking about, all of these crises when it comes to illegal immigration, refugees, and intaking people from other countries, etc., the travel ban, whatnot, it's happening every single place in the world. And in certain places, it's much, much worse than the United States. And the media just doesn't want to talk about it. They frame it like Trump's crazy and it's the first thing that's ever happened. But it's really happening in all these countries. So I'm going to go down the list of Canada, Sweden, Italy, Germany, France, England, South Korea, Denmark, and let you know what the news just doesn't want you to know about these countries, about illegal immigration, and about the refugee crisis that is striking the entire world, especially Europe. So let's start in Canada. I've mentioned several times, I'm going to mention again, the Conservatives are rising in Canada. Doug Ford won the Premier of Ontario. That's the leader of Ontario. They call it the Premier. He won so hard against the Liberals. The Liberals have been in power for between 10 and 20 years. He won so hard that the Liberals only got 7 out of 124 seats, which means they lost their official party status in Ontario for the first time in their 151-year history. So the Liberals are losing in Ontario, and Conservatives in Canada, Justin Trudeau has been very hard on Conservatives and right-wing people in Canada. They finally have a leader in Doug Ford, and he crushed the Liberals so bad, it's literally an epic proportion loss that they've never seen in 151 years. So now that Doug Ford is in office, he's beefing with Justin Trudeau, very similar to how President Trump in the United States is beefing with the Liberals, and they want to act like it's just a United States thing, but the same thing, if you watch Canadian news, same thing's happening there. What's going on now that Doug Ford won in Ontario, and now he's facing off against Justin Trudeau and the Liberals? Well, they're taking in a lot of illegal immigrants or refugees, whatever you like to call them. They're having in Canada an illegal immigration crisis as well. You would think, oh, I thought it was just the United States and because they're racist in Mexico. No, it's happening everywhere in the world, and it's happening in Canada. So the Liberals, such as Justin Trudeau and the leader of immigration or whatever his title is, they're trying to tell Doug Ford, the new Premier of Ontario, you have to take these illegal immigrants. You have to house them. You need to put them in your district or in Ontario. And Doug Ford's saying, no, I don't want to take illegal immigrants. I don't want to take these people and house them. I'm trying to build, my section of the country. I don't need all these people. Let me focus on the citizens that are being, lost and not heard. So they're trying to forcefully, put these people into Doug Ford's area. And if you really listen to Justin Trudeau and the Liberals, it's interesting because they don't say that it's not a problem. They almost admit that it is a huge, huge problem when it comes to crime and all of these things, because what they're saying is, no, we have to take these refugees. We have to take these illegal immigrants. The United Nations is telling us what to do. We have to do it. So they're admitting, the Liberals in Canada are admitting that they're not even really in control of their own country. Brexit in England was to put an end to the EU dictating what their country does. Donald Trump is trying to put an end to what the EU does because we separated from England for a reason. We're not part of Europe for a reason. Yes, we can work together, but no, the EU does not make decisions for the United States, or else we would vote in the president of the EU to be the president of the United States. So Doug Ford's saying, dude, I don't want to take them. Justin Trudeau and the Liberals are saying, oh, we don't really want to take them either, but we have to because the EU's basically dictating everything we do and we got to follow orders. They're basically, explaining that they're on behalf of the EU. And the Conservatives in Canada and Doug Ford and whatnot are saying less than 1%, according to the news that I watch, less than 1% of illegal immigrants are actually turned away. So in the United States, I believe it's a much higher rate, but in Canada, the Liberals are in such power that 99% of illegal immigrants that are coming there are able to stay. So I just want to, before I move on to the next country, I want to say what's happening in the United States is happening in Canada as well. There's an illegal immigrant and a refugee crisis where the Liberals are trying to say, we don't care if crime goes up, we don't care if poverty goes up, we don't care if we're not helping Canadians, we have to do it because the EU told us to do it, and you got to take these people. And, same thing is going on here. He's saying, I don't want to take them. It's no disrespect, but it's like we have a legal immigration process, so why don't we follow it? That's going on in Canada, but congratulations to Doug Ford and the Conservatives, and I expect to see a huge collapse of the Liberals in Canada, just like in the United States, because at the core of the peace, love, positivity, pride, marches every day, which I'm all for. I'm all for love. I don't care what your gender, whatever is. I don't care what your sexuality is. But at the core, what is your message? What are you doing to help the people here? We have millions of people in my city that are homeless and hundreds of thousands of kids in foster care. At what point do you stop importing more people if you can't even take care of your own people? So the same battle's happening in Canada with Doug Ford versus the Liberals, and I expect that to be an ongoing battle in which the Conservatives eventually take over because people are getting tired there. On to Sweden. Sweden is extremely liberal, so far liberal that they're very, very far left. They're progressive, socialist in their government. Bernie Sanders always mentions, Sweden and Denmark and Germany, all these countries. So they're very, very progressive, very, very liberal, and very, very socialist for a long time. Except now the poll from YouGov came out last month and found out that the Swedish Democrats, don't get confused, the Swedish Democrats are actually the right-wing party, or as mainstream media calls them, the far right-wing party. The Swedish Democrats, aka the right-wing party, they're actually in the lead. They've never won a position in government in the entire Swedish history, but they're in the lead. And the wild part about that is if you really pay attention to what's going on in Sweden and how they're portrayed in Reuters and Guardian and UK news and English news, they try to say that the Swedish Democrats, aka the far-right party, have neo-Nazi and white supremacist ties. So even with all this bad press, I don't know how much of it's true or not. I'm guessing it's not true. It sounds pretty outlandish that all of a sudden Sweden, the most peace, love, positivity, nicest people on the planet, all of a sudden they're a bunch of neo-Nazis and white supremacists because they don't want to get bombed all the time. So that's the way the news portrays it. But even though they're portraying it even harder and more negative than they are Donald Trump, same thing's happening in Sweden. The right wing is taking over and maybe is primed for their first win in September for the first time in Swedish history. Did all the Swedish people get racist overnight? No, wait. So why would they go far right wing instead of the normal liberal socialists? Well, the news that the media doesn't want to report about Sweden are rape is at an all-time high. You have explosions and grenade attacks are part and parcel everyday life in Sweden now. You have people getting stabbed and murdered out in the streets in Malmo almost every single day now. I mean, Sweden, I'm sure most parts of it are very, very nice. I'm sure overall it's very safe. It's a beautiful country. I know it is. But the people of Sweden are unhappy because they took in hundreds of thousands of refugees. But the problem is, a lot of these refugees, who are they? Were they really just, innocent people? That's how the media and the left wing portrays it. Unfortunately, I have a lot of compassion and kindness, but everybody, the left wing doesn't look at people based on content of character. They say, oh, if you're a refugee, you're a perfect person. If you're this race, you're perfect. If you're from this country, you're perfect. And if you're white and Swedish, you're horrible and you're terrible. So you can't critique them at all. If you critique someone of this color, you're a racist. If you critique someone of this color, you're Islamophobic. Or this religion. So they have all these labels to stop an intelligent discussion of trying to figure out what's going on. And what is going on in Sweden? There's hundreds, I'm talking about hundreds, of grenade attacks and explosions. You're talking about Sweden. Have you ever heard a grenade attack in, let's say, California? Have you ever heard of a grenade attack? No, we don't even have a single grenade attack. We have stabbings and shootings and muggings and, all sorts of horrible things, but are there grenade attacks and explosions? I mean, not that I know of. I've never heard one on the news. That would be breaking news. However, there's hundreds. Since 2014, there's literally hundreds. And I don't understand what progressives and liberals don't understand about that. Like, what part about grenade attack and explosions does not fit into your ideology of, whatever it is that is your ideology? But these didn't happen randomly. There's a direct correlation of taking in refugees and illegal migrants, or whatever you want to call them, human beings from another country. They're causing a lot of grenade attacks, explosions, and murders. But the problem in Sweden is similar to the problem in the UK and the United States and Canada and pretty much everywhere, is that the media makes it almost impossible to talk about it. Because if you say it, you're racist or you're horrible. And they not only don't want to talk about it, here's the crazy thing. They not only don't want to report on it, but if you sit here like myself or somebody else and you try to report on it and you say, hey, you know what? I think a lot of people are getting raped and blown up. they'll say, oh my God, we need to throw that person in jail. And in a lot of these countries, I don't know about Sweden, but England and Germany, they have hate speech laws. So not only will they not report on their own people getting blown up and killed, but if you try to report on it and say, hey, people are getting blown up and killed, then they call you a racist and try to arrest you. So, why is Sweden going right-wing for the first time in their history? It's because hundreds of people are getting blown up, explosions everywhere, people murdered at an all-time rate. You have no-go zones, places like Malmo that were once walkable, that literally they're called no-go zones, which means you can't go there, which means if you go there, you're probably going to get murdered. So this is why Sweden is going to the far-right party of Sweden Democrats. Are Swedish people racist, horrible people who hate other people of all ethnicities? No, they just don't want to get murdered in the streets, and the liberals and progressives don't care about that because it doesn't fit the liberal and progressive narrative. I have no disrespect for people of other religions or genders. God bless you. Whether you love Jesus Christ or Allah, I have love for you. I have no hate in my mind. But if I run a country, am I going to let my own people get murdered and exploded and be like, oh, don't talk about it because you're going to offend somebody? No, that's what liberals do. That's what progressives do. And that's why Sweden is having their own migrant and illegal immigration crisis that the news doesn't want to talk about. So now, the next time you see it in Sweden, I'm calling it now like I've been calling it for months. I'm not saying I'm right, but I probably will be. When the Sweden Democrats win, just like when Trump won, just like when Brexit happened, just like what happened in Italy, just like what happened with everything I'm going to talk about. No, everybody's not racist. No, the neo-Nazis are not coming back. No, the white nationalists are not taking over. No, the KKK is not back. It's the liberals and progressives going so far left, letting their own people get raped and stabbed and beheaded and murdered and exploded without wanting to say anything because they don't want to be too mean or nice. This is why Canada's going right-wing. This is why the United States is going right-wing. This is why Sweden's going right-wing. So you're going to see the Swedish Democrats, a.k.a. the far-right party, you're going to see them in the news the next couple months because they're leading the polls, and they're going to try to say they're neo-Nazi, they're going to try to say they're KKK, white supremacists. Just warning you, the next 50 times that you see it, be like, oh yeah, Namali warned me about that, and totally explained it in a more rational and honest way than the news ever will. So there you go. That's what's happening in Sweden. Good luck to the good people of Sweden. Hopefully you can get these delusional people out of your government that don't care about you, similar to Canada and the United States. Let's move on to Italy. Recently, Italy had a right-wing populist prime minister win. His name is Giuseppe Conte. So for the first time in a minute, Italy elected a populist, aka right-wing. That's the two titles that they're calling him. Why did that happen? Well, since 2013, Italy has accepted around 700,000 African migrants from Libya. If you're not paying attention or you follow fake news, such as, pretty much every news source out there except for the few that they attack, in Libya, they've had a huge crisis. First of all, it was always a little wild in Libya. They had Muammar Gaddafi, who was the leader of Libya, and, he was very controversial. I don't know how great of a person he was, but I do know that he was going with a more socialist-type government. He was trying to get his people water, housing. He was giving everyone free education. Say what you want about the guy, but he kept Libya in order. It might not be the order that I want, might not be the order that you want, but in Libya, they had a leader. Barack Obama's administration with Hillary Clinton of Secretary of State, they had an idea. They were like, what if instead of letting Libya be Libya, we fund rebels and go into Libya and kill the leader of Libya? So that's what Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton did. They don't really talk about it that much because now in Libya, there's reports of slave trade, literally Africans being sold into slave trade, and reports of organ harvesting because it's just absolutely a mess in Libya, much more than it was with Gaddafi. That's why you don't hear that much about it. That's why you hear about 2,000 people getting temporarily separated from their families, to make sure that they're not being trafficked or anything. You hear about that and you hear people crying and celebrities want to post all these pictures because they don't want to tell you about the thousands upon tens of thousands of Africans being enslaved in the 21st century thanks to liberal United States politicians. So, point being, Italy took 700,000 migrants from Libya. That sounds nice. I'm sure a lot of people need help, but the problem is when you have a complete power vacuum there, such as, what's going on in Libya now, who are these people? Are these 700,000 people all innocent mothers and kids and men who are looking for work? Or are you going to get an influx of terrorists and really horrible people and, people who are not going to function in society and commit a lot of crimes? It's a tough, that's why I'm just reporting the facts here. I'm not saying to leave people and let them die and let them fight in war, but you have to understand when you take in 700,000 people from a place where their own people are getting enslaved and organ harvested, you might not be getting 700,000 amazing people that are going to fit into Italy. So that's what they did in Italy. And the Italians got sick of it, just like pretty much every country on the planet. They try to blame it on Trump because Trump gets them a lot of money and revenue. I'm just trying to let you guys know. I'm trying to give you the truth so you don't keep getting lied to. Why does Jimmy Fallon, Trevor Noah, and Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert, they talk about Trump all the time. Trump. They do it because it gets them revenue. If they stop talking about Trump, they'd lose their entire show. It's not because Trump did not invent this stuff. Trump didn't make up this stuff. It's happening in Canada. It's happening in Sweden. It's happening in Italy. It's happening in Germany. It's happening in France. Happening in England. It's happening in South Korea. It's happening in Denmark. It's happening everywhere in the world. It's just that the news lies to everybody. So they're like, oh my God, Trump is so crazy. How could he do this? It's happening everywhere. And it's way worse in other places. So point being, this is why Italy went right wing. Are the Italian people racist, sexist, and xenophobic? I have no idea. I've never been there, but probably not. They probably, whoa, this is a crazy idea for a lot of people. They want Italy to be Italy. They don't want Italy to be Africa or Italy to be the Middle East. And there's nothing wrong with the Middle East and Africa. But at a certain point, if you let in hundreds of thousands of people and say, out of the 700,000, say 50,000 of them worked for terror organizations, or 50,000 of them have such a crazy ideology, that's 50,000 people in your city now that are literally incapable of, combating with your civilization and very likely to commit crime because some of their ideology tells them that they'll be rewarded for, beheading somebody. Is it everybody of that religion? I'm not, of course not. I have great Muslim friends out here, and they'll say the same thing. They'll say, hey, I came from Pakistan, and this is a reality of what's going on in my country and other countries. So overall, Italy went right wing with their new populist prime minister, Giuseppe Conte. Similar to the United States, they're just tired of the BS, and they just want basic law and order and safety and security over virtue signaling and pandering to the, we love everybody, so we're not going to pay attention to our actual citizens. On to Germany. So Germany's Chancellor, Angela Merkel, for a long time she was called the Refugee Chancellor and the Migrant Chancellor because Angela Merkel is one of the heads of the EU. I don't know officially, but I know she's deep in there. She was saying, we're going to take them all. We took 1 million. I don't know how many total, but I believe over 1 million refugees Germany took. And recently, I was just doing a lot of research. Just yesterday, Angela Merkel basically said that it looks like she's going to stop taking in so many refugees and migrants. So, did Angela Merkel get racist all of a sudden? No, I think she just sees the effects of what's happening in Germany. So, what's happening in Germany? Violent crime is way up. And the irony of this, I did another report on it, is they said it as far as Reuters said it in January of 2018. Newsweek, a far left-leaning publication that hates Donald Trump, said it in January and February. All the mainstream media all year has been reported that violent crime is way up in Germany, and it's directly correlated with an influx of migrants. This is Reuters. This is Newsweek. This is not an anomaly. This is them. President Trump said it a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago. He said, hey, the violent crime's up in Germany. And then all of a sudden, the Washington Post and Newsweek, and they all said, President Trump is so crazy. Oh my God. He said violent crime is up due to migrants in Germany. What a crazy guy, President Trump. That's not true. They're so foolish that literally Newsweek did a report that said, Trump said violent crime is up in Germany due to migrants. That's not true. And they themselves published something a couple months earlier that said it was true. I've literally put them back to back to expose them as the cowardly, fraudulent news organization that they are for literally saying the opposite of what they said 2 months ago just because President Trump said it. But the truth is, violent crime is up. Just yesterday or 2 days ago, a 1-year-old girl got beheaded. Literally beheaded. Do you hear stories about that in the United States of little kids getting beheaded, their heads chopped off? This is sick, disgusting stuff because there's a lot of sick, disgusting people in the world that you don't want to let into your country. But a lot of these countries don't care. They say, no. We're so much less racist than you, so we're going to close our eyes and just let millions of people come in and not check who they are. hundreds of thousands of them aren't even refugees, and they're not even really from Syria. They're just lying to get, free benefits and extra handouts in Germany and Sweden and France, but they don't care. They're letting their people get beheaded. The mother got stabbed to death, and unfortunately, this is becoming part and parcel in a lot of these European countries. It's not uncommon for mothers and kids to get, beheaded and stabbed, and this is not on the low, it's on the rise. So violent crimes on the rise. Another fun fact I want to report about Germany, and it's not fun, I don't know why I said that, but there's a report from CNN actually that when they take in people, when Germany takes in refugees, they have a policy for the families to get kept apart. So, United States people are protesting and freak out and screaming, but it's direct policy of Germany. When they take in refugees and they take in a mother and they take in a kid, for some reason, their government passed some sort of families get separated. So it's not happening just in the United States. It's happening in Germany too, and it's even deeper than it is here. It's not to stop people from trafficking. Maybe it is. I don't know. But anyway, that's happening in Germany. Violent crime is up. Little kids are getting beheaded. They've taken in millions of refugees, but they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to report on it unless they report on it, and then you report on it, and then they just do the opposite of what you do, because apparently that makes sense. But just as recent as yesterday, Angela Merkel said, you know what? Maybe I'm not going to keep the door open anymore. Maybe if reality finally hit in, she figured out what Trump figured out 5 years ago, but they don't want to admit it because they don't want to tell you Trump was right. They don't want to tell you Italy's right and Canada's right. They don't want to say that, so they're just like, you know what, we're going to slowly do exactly what Trump's doing on the low. So it looks like Angela Merkel is going to get away from her open door policy because it's leading to her own people getting murdered. So congratulations to Angela Merkel for being 6 years late on that, and congratulations mainstream media for probably never reporting on that, because you don't want to let people know that President Trump was right years ago. So let's move on to France. France is a beautiful country. You have Paris, France, which is the lover country. People go to see the Eiffel Tower, and it used to be, I'm sure it still is a beautiful country, but it's way, way more dangerous. It's so dangerous now in France, Paris, France, that they're building a terror fence around the Eiffel Tower to stop terrorism attacks. So have you ever heard of that in France, Paris, France? Oh, you know how the Eiffel Tower just looked nice just sitting there? Well, we're going to build a whole fence around it so nobody commits a terrorist attack. Why are they doing it? Because there's drownings, stabbings, rapes, thousands of people living in tents. Certain parts of Paris look like downtown Los Angeles. There's thousands of migrants, so why would you take in tens of thousands of people if you don't have somewhere for them to go? Oh, we're so nice, we're going to take in all these refugees, and then we're going to let them live in tents in the street of Paris. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much, France. You're so much nicer than all the right-wing people. Wow, just leave them in tents. So Paris is an absolute mess. I've had multiple reports that I've heard personally from a girl that was liberal. I was bringing this up, and, she was like, oh, I've been to France, blah, 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 and I started mentioning what was going on, and she was like, you know what? Now that you mention it, that sounds about right. I was walking near the Eiffel Tower during the day, and 7 guys came at me and literally tried to rape me, and I had to sprint away. And this is somebody that's liberal, that would never admit this in their wildest daydreams, but they're like, that did happen to me. I almost got raped in France. I have another friend who goes out there every year. She said, it's very, very dangerous. All the locals will tell you, don't walk there, don't walk there, don't walk there. And you could say, hey, I've been coming to France since I was 5 years old. I'm fine. And they're like, no, it's not the same anymore, because Paris and France took in tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, I don't know how many, refugees and migrants, threw them out on the streets to live in tents. So there's drowning, stabbings, rapes, thousands of people living in tents, and the crime is way up in France, Paris, and the news doesn't really want to talk about it. Macron, the leader of France, he's very, very unpopular now after winning. The news called him a centrist and an outsider, even though he's totally not. The people are unhappy with him. He was kind of like the puppet politician. Obama was going for him. He's like, oh, I support this guy. So, he's that guy. He's a total EU guy. And instead of fixing his own state, or his own country and his own city, he feels the need to lecture other countries and say, oh, why don't you act like Paris? Why don't you do what we're doing? Well, no one wants their cities to end up like your city, so that's why the leaders are not listening to you. Let's move on to England. Just in 2017 in England, as they're floating a little baby Trump balloon, how immature do you have to be to fly a baby Trump balloon in his diaper over your city? Like, what are we, 2 years old? We can't make sense anymore. So we're going to fly a little baby Trump poop in his pants balloon. I mean, grow up. How pathetic are these people? Like, hey, do you want to fly a baby Obama or baby Hillary balloon where they're pooping their pants? No, I'm not 5 years old. Why would I want to do that? I don't care who it is. I mean, that's so foolish. But just in 2017 in England, they had 465 acid attacks. If you don't know what an acid attack is, it's probably because you live in a country where they don't happen. Like, everybody pretty much should if you have a decent country that's not, turning into a third world country. But an acid attack is when someone takes acid, throws it on your face or on your skin, and it burns you to the point of, like, you can pretty much never fix your skin. So in 2017, there were 465 acid attacks, which is up every single year since 2012. It went up a little, down a little, up. I mean, they used to have no acid attacks. Now they have 465 a year, and it shows no signs of slowing down. Just in March, from January to March of 2018, the murder rate in London was up 44%. Gun crime in London was up 23%, and knife crime was up 21%. I wonder why the murder rate's up in London. I wonder why it's up 44%. I wonder why the gun crime's up 23%. I thought they don't have guns in England. I thought they have the strictest gun laws in the world. So how are people shooting people when it's illegal? Wait, criminals don't follow the law? There's a such thing as illegal guns? Yeah, of course there are. I mean, criminals don't follow the law, and criminals don't need to buy a gun at a gun store to get a gun. I mean, how stupid can you be? But this is the liberal and progressive wing that I embarrassingly supported for years of my life, because I thought it was all peace, love, positivity, dance in the street wearing rainbow costumes, and the whole world's going to be great. But this is what happens when you're so delusional and you have no rationality or intelligent thought on your side of the political discussion. You get murder rate up 44%, gun crime in a place where there are no guns up 23%, and knife crimes up 21%. So what are they doing in England to combat the knife crime and the murder rate? Instead of realizing that they took in hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of refugees and migrants and ISIS fighters, literal ISIS fighters, you can find videos of Piers Morgan talking to the mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, saying that there's hundreds of ISIS members, if not thousands of ISIS members, literally roaming the streets and they don't know where they are. And Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, admits, I'm not talking about just a refugee with a religion, I'm talking about literal ISIS fighters. Yeah, we don't know where they are, so the police need more money because we're being underfunded. He's literally admitting that there's ISIS fighters running all around his city, and he has no idea where they are. I mean, this is how pathetic the leadership is in England. There's 465 acid attacks a year. The murder's up 44%, gun crime's up 23%, knife crime is up 21%, and they're cracking down on knives. They're having knife distributors. We're not going to sell kitchen knives anymore. I'm not joking. This is not sarcasm. This is really happening in England. They're cracking down on knives. You have the police bragging on Twitter. Hey, we found a construction worker with a screwdriver and a knife and some scissors, and we confiscated the weapons. Oh, congratulations. You took a screwdriver from an electrician. Wow. Good job, London police. Oh, why are the gun crime up? There's no guns. It's because it's not the gun, it's not the knife, it's the person. And what they're doing, or what the liberals and progressives are trying to do in Canada and Italy and Germany and Sweden and France and England, is instead of focus on the content of character, like Martin Luther King tried to tell you, it's not the skin color, it's not the religion, it's the content of their character. Put that aside and figure out the content of their character. Liberals and progressives are literally incapable of doing that in 2018, so they say, no. These people are perfect. We're going to take in millions of these people. They're all innocent victims. We're going to ignore the crime rates. We're going to call you racist if you talk about it. And then we're going to take away your guns and your knives because we're going to focus on the inanimate object that can't pick itself up. So, of course, acid attacks are up. Of course, gun crime is up. Of course, knife crime is up. And of course the murder rate is up because you have a failed ideology. Your whole ideology is a fail. The liberal and progressive ideology is a fail. I'm sorry. I love universal health care. I want to help everybody. I love everybody. I don't care if you're transgender, gay, I'll bake you a cake. I'm not a conservative from, Texas or wherever the heck that happened. But I'm just letting you know, the whole ideology is a complete fail, okay? It leads to acid attacks. It leads to murders. It leads to kids getting their heads chopped off because you're incapable of figuring out the content of somebody's character versus the victim mentality ideology of all of these people are such innocent victims. And it's the white male patriarchy, cisgendered. Ooh, I'm going to get mad at Scarlett Johansson because she's playing a transgender woman. Oh, I'm a lesbian and I'm going to stop the gay parade in England because I think transgenders are taking away from my lesbian identity. Grow up, you morons. I mean, this is what happens, and I hate to be mean. I hate to, ramp it up. I try to be as nice as possible, but there's real life consequences for your delusion. There's real life consequences for your stupidity. There's real life consequences when you don't know up from down and left from right, and you're protesting an organization that's stopping 700 kids from getting, raped every year, and you're trying to abolish that organization. There's real life consequences. There's millions of white, black, Latino, Asian, Indian, English, whatever you want to say it, employees working for these agencies, trying to feed their families. Meanwhile, you're trying to threaten their lives and abolish their entire organization when all they want to do is help the country. There's real life consequences. And in England, the real life consequences are 465 acid attacks in 2017, and the Met Police of England, of London, saying that murder rates up 44%, gun crime's up 23%, knife crime is up 21%, and it's not going down because your whole ideology is a complete fail. And it's a whole fake ideology of fake activism, fake racial activism, and you're literally just destroying your own people. So God bless England. Good luck, because a baby Trump balloon is not going to save your country. Good luck, really. I don't know what's going on in England, but if anywhere, that place is going to fall. And I don't say that. I hope you guys figure it out, but I don't know what's going on. And they did the whole Brexit thing in England too, and they're trying to overturn that because the people were like, hey, let's not, destroy our entire country. And then you got billions of people or billionaires pouring in money trying to overturn the legislation. It's a complete mess. I'm sorry to people in England. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless England. You guys need it. Let's move on to South Korea. South Korea is, under North Korea. No, but all jokes aside, they really have a strict immigration policy, way, way stricter than the United States. You think Trump is bad? You think what he's doing is bad? South Korea, just in the last year, they only accepted 91 of 6,015 refugees. That's only 1.5%. 91 out of 615. And the people of South Korea think that's too much. So much so that they're protesting right now. Fake refugees go home. They're protesting saying, we're against the Islamification of South Korea. This is not Anomaly saying this. This is South Koreans saying this. You think Trump is bad? Go to South Korea. Go to Japan. Japan doesn't play that at all. They don't let any refugees in. But what's happening in South Korea is there's about 561 Yemeni people on the island of Jeju, which is a resort island in South Korea. And first off, I do want to say, God bless Yemen as well. That's being underreported. I don't know what's going on. There's like a Saudi-U.S. blockade of Yemen, and there's a lot of people, women and children and men, being starved. There's a blockade of food. So Yemen, that is a humanitarian crisis. I don't know what's going on there. I've never been there, but I do know that there's Yemeni starving, and Yemeni people do need help. So I'm not co-signing this. I'm not justifying it. I'm just reporting the news because I do want to help Yemeni people. But this is how migration and anti-refugee that South Korea is. They only have 561 refugees on an island somewhere, and they're all protesting saying, fake refugees go home. That's too many. Get out of my country. Go away. We don't want you here. And the reasoning is they value safety and security very, very highly here. In the United States, I don't think we do that so much. We're just like, F it. We got tens of thousands of millions of homeless people living on the street. We got hundreds of thousands of kids in foster care. Who cares? Let's leave them there. Let's tax people for climate change. Let's bring in millions of more people. We don't value safety. We don't value security. We literally value pure destruction of Western civilization. But In South Korea, they value their safety, they value their security, and even though there are people in help, the South Koreans say, no, we see what's going on in the United States. We see what's going on in England. We see what's going on in Europe. We don't want any part of it. We want zero refugees. So that's how strict that they are in South Korea. The news barely reports on that because it destroys their whole narrative, trying to say that the United States is the worst. We're not the worst. We're not even close to the most racist country. That annoys me so much. We're possibly the least racist country. You go to, people think, oh, all of Mexico and all of Central America and all of South America, they're all Latinos who love each other. No, it's not true. Do you have any Mexican friends? Do you have any Argentinian friends? Do you have any Guatemalan friends? Do you have any Colombian friends? Do you have any, do you have any Spanish friends? Or are you so racist that you just paint a big bubble? Oh, they're all Mexican or they're all Latino and they're all perfect. No, they're not perfect. There's nothing wrong, I'm not saying. But there's a lot of racism in the Spanish world, and anybody with Spanish friends or family knows this. Not everyone's racist, I'm not saying that. There's a lot of great people, just like the United States. But this whole narrative of the United States is so racist, and everywhere else is so not. The Middle East is perfect, and the Latin America is perfect. It's not true. They have racism unlike anything you've ever experienced. The most racist people I've ever met were Argentinians. So the liberals paint it, oh my God, they have their own inner racism. And there's no guarantee. This is the part that really weirds me out. Before I go on to Denmark, which is the last country, they think that everybody's everybody. Like, they think that if they take somebody from Yemen and they take somebody from Somalia and they take 1,000 people from Afghanistan and they take 10,000 people from Syria and then they take 10,000 people from, Egypt, and then they ship them to a ghetto here. They put them on the street in a city. They act like they're the same thing as a Mexican, or they're the same thing as an African American, a black person who was born in the United States. No, there's a difference. Just like if you meet someone from Nigeria or somebody from Africa that moved to the United States, a lot of times they have a different mentality than an African American born in America because they have a different life experience. They've lived in Africa, so they're not going to have the same, illusion or the same mindset of somebody who's born here. Just like some of the most delusional people are not people from I love immigrants because immigrants actually know what's going on. All my friends from Mexico or Guatemala or South America or Brazil or, Africa, they have no problem with me. They love me. They're like, anomaly, you keep it totally real. It's like liberals born in America that are so disillusioned by the American lifestyle. They're like, oh, everybody else is perfect. The Middle East is perfect and South America is perfect. No, it's not. Africa's not perfect. Middle East is not perfect. South America is not perfect, and Mexico is not perfect. It doesn't mean they're bad people, but this illusion of like, oh my God, all these people are the same. We're gonna take in 100,000 refugees from Yemen and Syria and Afghanistan, and dump them off on the street. And then they're going to coexist perfectly with Latinos and black people. I mean, how delusional are you? First of all, they're not the same. Someone born in America is not, it's not that they're not a human, but this is like the goofy, progressive, liberal mindset. They want you to believe that you're the same as an illegal immigrant from Mexico, which is the same as a refugee from Afghanistan, which is the same as a refugee from Syria. No, there's 10,000 different types of people there, and they're not even remotely the same as somebody who lives in the United States. And you take these people and you just dump them off into cities where you're not even taking care of the black and Latino citizens who live there. There's parts of this city that are disgusting, a lot of parts of the city. There's a lot of parts of the city that are in poverty. There's a lot of kids in homeless shelters, and there's a lot of kids in foster care. But instead of actually fixing that problem, change yourself, help your own community, they just have this delusional idea that they're going to take millions of people from another country, from a war-torn and terrorist, taken over country, dump them off in the city, and that everyone's going to coexist in a utopia, even though you're not even helping the people there. That's the part that bothers me the most about that whole narrative, because it's like, you don't even know. You might take someone from Libya that was enslaving African people in Libya. Now you're going to take someone who thinks it's in their ideology to enslave people, and you're going to dump them off in a neighborhood in the United States and be like, oh, they're the same person as that. No, they're not. They might hate that person. You don't even know. So overall, I have no problem with people, but the whole narrative that's going on, that's what bothers me. I don't even have a thick ideology of like, oh, this is what I believe in that. But I know BS when I see it. I know a lie, and the news is lying, celebrities are lying, and they're not telling you about all of this conflict. It's worldwide. It's not Trump. It's not America. It's not racism in America. America's one of the greatest places in the world until you guys ruin it. I mean, every day I walk outside, I don't even want to walk outside again. My neighborhood keeps getting crummier and crummier and crummier and crummier, and there's more delusional people. I literally walked for a block today, and I saw 7 people with their eyes rolled behind their head, just like spitting up on people on the sidewalk. And the crazy part is people just let them do it. They don't even see what's going on. It's like I'm living in a zombie horror land where, yeah, let's dump 100,000 more people from a war-torn country in the city. Oh, that'll really solve our problems. No, you're going to turn our city into literally a war-torn area. It's already happening. I mean, I got to get out of here. Anyway, on to Denmark real quick, because Denmark, once again, just like South Korea, England, France, Germany, Italy, Sweden, and Canada, woke up to the reality that taking hundreds of thousands of refugees and migrants and people that they have no idea who they are or where they're even really from and putting them in their country or throwing them on the street in a tent like they did in Paris, they finally figured it out. Oh, it doesn't work. It's just making our country worse. It's not helping anyone here, and it's not even helping those people. I don't want to get on another tangent again, but once again, not only is this not helping the country that you live in, but you're not helping Syria. You're not helping Yemen. Yemen is still getting blockaded. The kids are getting starved. You're not helping these countries. You're not even putting a dent in Mexico or you're not helping anything. It's not like, oh, we're going to take in these people and it's going to be a utopia. No, you're making that country worse, and all the other countries are getting worse off as well. So it's like you're not even putting a dent in the global war-torn areas and global poverty and all this stuff. You're not helping. You're literally just making the whole world more terrible. You're not helping Mexico. You're not helping Yemen. You're not helping Syria. You're not helping Somalia. You're not really helping. You're not helping anybody. You're not changing their country. You're not helping these people. You're just making the country worse. So on to Denmark. They're really fed up with all the nonsense. So what they're doing, to be honest, it's not even a solution I would have. I think it's a little bit weird and a little bit unfair for sure, but I'm just reporting what they're doing. They're now training people in Danish values because they've seen a lot of crime uptick. They've seen violent crime, murders, rapes, all that stuff. So they have a slogan saying no ghettos in 2030. So of course a lot of people think that's racist and terrible, but they're over they're over it like a lot of other countries, and they're starting to do double punishment in certain parts of the area. So to me, I think this is a little bit ridiculous. I mean, I think there is a solution that they should have. Just on a personal note, I don't think this is it. I do see how this could be misconstrued as racist or terrible, but they're giving certain people double punishment. So if you live in a certain area that they consider a ghetto, they're saying double punishment for you. If you commit a crime, you get 2 times the sentencing. And a lot of American publications are saying this is targeting Muslims, they're racist, they're sexist. But the truth behind it, whether you agree with that punishment or not, personally, I don't think it's the right answer. I think they're confused and angry. But overall, Denmark is tired of the nonsense. South Korea is tired of the nonsense. England, France, Germany, Italy, Sweden, and Canada. And they're all going right-wing for a reason. Because when you mix identity politics, which means race, religion, gender, instead of judging people on the content of character, you make this whole broad spectrum where you're like, this is the victim side. We're going to put these races in here, and these countries in here, and these religions in here. And this is the oppressor side. No matter who you are, no matter how poor you are, no matter how non-connected you are to politicians or millionaires, you're the oppressor, and everything's your fault. And we're going to skew society to damage you and help these people. And you've taken hundreds of thousands of people from war-torn areas where there's literally terrorist groups taking over. I'm not saying to not help people, but if you really want to help people, you have to fix their country. Because you're taking in, I'll give you a very good example. In Syria, I have friends who live in Syria. They had a foreign policy to try to kill the leader of Syria. This was liberals, the people that say they're peace, love, positivity. Under the Obama administration, they were funding rebels to basically overthrow the leader of Syria. So a huge part of the refugee crisis in Libya and Syria is directly because of the Obama administration. Maybe they did it purposely. I don't know. At this point, nothing that nefarious would even surprise me. But the reason there was a huge refugee crisis, it's not because all these people were like, oh my God, I need your help, save me. They were like, living their lives, and it wasn't great. I'm sure there was problems and stuff, but they had leaders of their country: Bashar al-Assad in Syria, Muammar Gaddafi in Libya, and the Obama administration was like, hey, let's overthrow the leader of Syria. So they literally started funding rebels. Terrorist organizations took over many parts of Syria. So hundreds of thousands of people had to flee Syria, not because they needed liberals' help, because liberal policies and liberal politicians, or, if a right-wing person was into it, doesn't matter, Republican, Democrat, same thing really on a war global scale, but they caused the refugee crisis. So as you guys are marching in the streets with rainbow-colored things, and there's nothing wrong with rainbow-colored things, I'm, all love to the LGBT community, but while you're focused on that and saying, hey, we got these things, you're letting liberal politicians start a refugee crisis. They started the refugee crisis in Syria. They started the refugee crisis in Libya. Fast forward a few years, Trump reverses a few policies, Syria gets help from Russia and I believe Iran. Meanwhile, Syria doesn't let their country turn into Libya. So Syria gets help. The United States backs off a little bit under Trump, and they take their city back from terrorists. Guess what happened? Hundreds of thousands of refugees went back to Syria. So if you stop blowing up their countries and you stop killing their leaders, there's not a big refugee crisis. The United States, partially Israel, England, Germany, the EU, was hugely responsible for the refugee crisis. Yes, the Middle East has always been fighting, but the United States and Western civilization and the EU caused the refugee crisis to be 20 times as bad as it ever would have been. So if you don't blow up people's country, there is no refugee crisis, but no one realizes that. So they're like, and you really start to look at it, you start to look at the moves they were making, and people have a very legitimate question. Was the EU, was Obama, were these leaders, did they purposely do that? Because it to me, and a lot of people, you could say right-wing, but basically people with common sense nowadays, they're saying it sounds like they're purposely trying to do this. And this is not, first of all, let me just say this so I don't get misconstrued. God bless all Muslims. There's nothing wrong with the religion, in my personal opinion. Pray to who you want to, believe in who you want to. There's 2 billion or so Muslim people on this world, and I'm sure a majority of them are amazing people. But there's a big chunk of Muslim population, and these chunk of Muslim population, they don't like other Muslims. They kill other Muslims. They literally perform terrorist attacks on other Muslims praying at Mecca. They've done this before. They want to destroy Western civilization. They've admitted it. Leaders have literally admitted it. The leader of Turkey, Erdogan, or however you say his name, he said, hey, if you guys don't stop playing around, I'm going to send a bunch of refugees to your country. So it's not like people are making this up and being like, oh, we're not being incompassionate. You have literal leaders in the Muslim world, not all of them, but some of them, who are saying our people are the weapons. We are going to infiltrate your countries. We are going to take over your civilizations. We are going to send our people to terrorize your place. It's not all people. It's not the whole religion. It's not all, I have so many amazing Muslim people. My neighbor was Muslim, and his mom was one of the most beautiful, amazing people that I've ever met. It was one of the nicest people in my life. But in those countries, this is a reality. So people don't want to look at the multi-layered stuff and say this. I think the right wing is too mean and too nasty, and they generalize it. But I also think the left wing is delusional. So the right wing, they just say, F that, it's mean, it's terrible, I don't agree with it. But the left wing says, no, that's not happening, but it is happening. So the question strikes, I do want to say before I end this, is this could be a mistake. This could have just been the United Nations and U.S. and England and all these countries making a huge war mistake, making a huge military mistake, causing a huge refugee crisis, and then feeling bad about it. That's what the mainstream narrative is. Oh, no, they made a mistake. They destroyed Syria and Libya. They felt bad about it, and now they're trying to make up for it. But it also could be, and a lot of people think this, is that they purposely did it. They purposely destroyed Libya, they purposely destroyed Syria, and they're purposely flooding the United States, Canada, and Europe with refugees. And now, they're trying to do South Korea and Japan. And that's why South Korea and Japan are so against it. They don't virtue signal. They don't say we love all people, we're not racist, because they know they're not racist, but they have a culture that they want to keep. They have a society that functions well with not that much crime that they want to keep. And the problem is, I have no problem with immigrants. I'm from a family of immigrants from Puerto Rico, Italy, Poland, Czechoslovakia. Half of my family on my stepfather's side is from Mexico. I have friends from the Middle East. It's not about immigrants are bad, but the current migrant and immigrant refugee crisis is a crisis because everywhere that these refugees went, whether they're from Syria or Somalia or Libya or now Yemen, I'm not saying that some people don't need help, but everywhere that they went, crime is up, violent crime is up, explosions are up, rape is up, murders are up, beheading is up, and the liberal and progressive media doesn't want to talk about it because it doesn't fit their narrative of victim versus victor, or these are the oppressors and these are the people that need our help. It doesn't fit the narrative, so they're literally letting 1-year-old kids get beheaded and they don't want to talk about it. They're literally letting 400 people a year get acid attacked to the point where they're not even going to be able to walk in public again without having face burns, but they don't want to talk about it. They're going to let people in Sweden get murdered and hundreds of explosions happening every other year, but they don't want to talk about it. So I'm just letting you know, this is a worldwide crisis. It's not a Trump thing. It's not a United States thing. It's not a, oh my God, Trump is so racist and he made this stuff up. It's happening everywhere. It's happening in every country in Europe. It's happening in Canada. It's happening everywhere. It's even happening in Mexico and other countries. They have illegal immigration policies that you'll never hear of too. But it's happening in Asia. Everywhere you turn, they have an illegal immigration or immigration/migrant crisis. And it's a crisis because everywhere that these people go, crime goes up tenfold. But the liberal and progressive media doesn't want to talk about it. And not only do they not want to talk about it, but if you talk about it, they label you an extremist on the right wing. They try to throw every sort of label and stigma on you so that you can't fit in society and everyone thinks you're terrible. I don't have a terrible bone in my body, but I'm just letting you know the reality. And the reality is also, a lot of people are leaving the UN for this reason, because the UN was created to make Europe stronger and make the United States stronger and have a coalition where everybody's stuck together. But what it basically turned into over the past 3 years, which is why Doug Ford from Canada doesn't want to listen to him. It's why Italy's not listening to him. It's why Poland's not listening to him. It's why Hungary doesn't want to listen to him. It's why Germany's now starting to not listen to him. It's why it's why Brexit happened. It's because the EU stopped being like a good thing and started being like we screwed up, we purposely did this, and now you have to take hundreds of thousands of people in who are going to destroy your country. So it's not this great thing. Oh my God, the EU said this about Trump. Who cares what the EU says? They're a bunch of liars, okay? They have some of the biggest perpetrators of human rights sitting on their human rights campaign. That's why Nikki Haley and Trump left the Human Rights Council, because they have, the country that's responsible for the most terrorism and the most humanitarian crises in the 21st century sitting on their Human Rights Council. So who cares? That's like, you have Charles Manson sitting on your Let's Stop Murder Council. It doesn't really mean much when you have the biggest mass murder as, one of the top countries on the council. So the EU has lost all of my respect, all of my trust, all of my support on that note. So when Trump says something, just because they don't like Trump or, you think Trump is mean, just pay attention. That's all I'm saying. Just look at what's going on. Look deeper, because what I just explained in very, very deep detail, this is the big plot that the news are not talking about. This is like the chess game. The little fake game is, oh my God, Trump said this about 1,000 kids at the border, and we're going to take pictures and make it look worse than it is, and that's the distraction. The pride parades and stuff, that's the distraction. The who's baking a cake for who, that's the distraction. The oh my God, redhead was mean to Sarah Sanders, that's the distraction. And I'm not saying these things aren't bad. Bake a damn cake for whoever. Stop being so mean. Let Sarah Sanders eat. Stop being so mean. Could go both ways. But overall, that's the distraction. All these little, oh my God, Trump said this in the tweet, and there's a baby pooping his pants floating over England. It's the distraction. The real chess game and the real plot that goes under everything is this migrant immigration crisis. And make no mistake, this is not by chance. I don't know for sure, but I'm not so sold that it's really a mistake. I think at the core of it, this may be a very nefarious plot. And this is the big chess game. It's a big global scale. They're trying in many ways to bring down the United States. They're trying to bring down Europe. They've done it to several countries before. Don't be so naive. Oh, they would never do that in England and the United States. Why? They did it in Syria. They did it in Libya. They did it in Iran in the 1960s or 70s. They've done it in South America. They've literally done it in dozens of countries throughout our last 100 years. Why do you think they wouldn't do it here? Why do you think they wouldn't do it in England? Why do you think they wouldn't do it in Sweden? Why do you think they wouldn't do it in England? Why do you think they wouldn't do it in Italy? But overall, I want to end on a positive note. I don't think it's going to work. I think it's failing in the United States. You have President Trump as president. They're freaking out. They're doing all these sort of desperate things, and I do believe there's going to be a big red wave in November, but we'll see. Best of luck to everybody. I don't care, Republican or Democrat. Just give me somebody that makes sense. Give me someone that has basic common sense and accountability and actually wants to make their community. I'll take a Democrat if they actually decide to clean up the city instead of importing hundreds of thousands of people here. Help the people here. My neighborhood's turning into a zombie wonderland. It's disgusting. It's filled with dirt. It's filled with tents. It's filled with homeless people spitting on people and mentally ill people by the thousands roaming all over the streets. If you want to impress me and be a Democrat, stop talking about things that nobody cares about. Start talking about reality. Stop saying you're going to abolish a law enforcement agency. Start getting the law enforcement agencies to actually do something. So I don't care if it's Democrat or Republican, but it's not working in the United States. Trump is more powerful than ever. People are not buying the media. That's why the people who are so confused are getting so mad, because their whole reality is crashing down. Oh my God, what's going on? Well, stop listening to fake news and fake entertainers and fake athletes and all these fake people saying all these fake things, because they're not even letting you know about this reality. It's failing in Canada. It's failing so hard that Doug Ford won so bad against the Liberals that they only got 7 out of 124 seats. They were in power. They were the majority party in Ontario for the last 15 years. And now they lost their official party status, the Liberals, for the first time in their 151-year history. And Doug Ford is taking on Justin Trudeau. And Justin Trudeau was groping people 20 years ago, which I think is a ridiculous thing. But, it's kind of how the left ideology, they eat their own, because it's like, me too, me too, me too, me too. They're just dragging everyone to, oh my God, Justin Trudeau groped a reporter 20 years ago. He's like, oh no, shucks. It's like, well, yeah, that's what happens when you play identity politics. They eventually come to swallow you too. And then you have, oh my God, in the Pride Parade in England, the lesbians are mad at the transgenders for stealing their identity. It's like such a circus. But overall, the Liberals are completely failing in Canada. I expect Justin Trudeau or whoever is his predecessor to get absolutely crushed by the Conservatives. And don't be surprised. In Sweden, I expect the Swedish Democrats, the far-right party, to win unanimously. Oh my God, how did they let a neo-Nazi white supremacist win? Because they're not neo-Nazis and white supremacists. They're normal Swedish people who have been liberal and socialist their entire lives, who just woke up and like, oh my God, maybe we should stop explosions and grenade attacks everywhere because the liberals and progressives aren't helping us. It's not working in Italy. It's not even working in Germany. Angela Merkel's not even following her own policy anymore, because after 1 million migrants and a raise in violent crime and 1-year-olds getting beheaded, I think she's finally realizing, you know what? We got to figure out a different strategy, because we're not helping these countries and we're not helping my country. It has to be a global effort to fix these countries so people don't have to flee. It's not working in France. Paris is in its worst state that it's been in decades. There's tents everywhere. There's drowning, stabbings, rapes, and thousands of people living in tents on the city. It looks like downtown Los Angeles in France, and they need a terrorist fence around the Eiffel Tower because that's how much control they don't have of their own city. In England, acid attacks are at an all-time high. Murders are at an all-time high. Gun crime's at an all-time high. Knife crime is up. They don't know why. It's because you're not paying attention to reality. South Korea is more mean and rude than the United States will ever be. They only take in 1.5% of refugees, and even they're protesting, saying that's too much. So if you think you want to go protest racism and people who aren't inclusive, go to South Korea and complain, but you don't want to, because South Korea is a really nice place and there's not that much crime. And Denmark is being maybe the most extreme of them all, trying to get rid of their impoverished areas because they're tired of the crime as well. So overall, just saying it's not working anywhere. The UN plan and the whole liberalization and delusion of Western civilization, they got really close. They had a really good try. They almost made it there. But I do want to say, just to wrap it up, to liberals and progressives, please just consider what I'm saying Because if you don't consider what I'm saying, I mentioned this years ago when I liked Bernie Sanders. I told everyone Trump was going to win. They didn't believe me. Everything that I said happened. I'm not bragging. It's not like I know this only because it's basic common sense. I have a pulse on the world rather than just like closing my eyes and making stuff up. But if you don't listen to me now, if you don't listen to Trump now, if you don't listen to Doug Ford now, and if you don't try to understand where we're coming from, it's not going to lead to a utopia. It's not going to lead to a rise of left-leaning policies. You're only pushing people further right. So if you don't listen to me and Trump now, it's going to get worse. And if it gets worse and worse and worse and worse, what happens is what's happening in Italy. Now you have a far right rise. You think Trump is far right? Trump is like basic moderate Republican / lifelong liberal that is just tired of Democrats. Trump is not far right. The news is lying. Celebrities are lying. But if you keep pushing and you keep lying and you keep ignoring Europe and ignoring Asia and ignoring Canada and ignoring the reality that is the entire world, you're going to meet the far right leader that you never wanted. And I don't want it either. I would rather somebody that's more liberal in the way that they operate, as well as having basic common sense conservative policies. But this whole ideology you're pushing, it doesn't lead to left-leaning progress. It leads to a collapse of the Canadian Liberal Party. It leads to a collapse of the Democratic Party in America. It leads to a collapse of the Socialist Party in Sweden. And it's already happening, and it's going to keep happening. But if you push it further and further, and you keep acting hysterical and doing all these delusional protests and getting mad at really small stuff that doesn't really matter, that you didn't even know about a week ago, it's going to lead to extreme far right people. I'm telling you, I'm just warning you, and I don't want that to happen in the United States. More than you don't want it to happen. You act like you hate the far right, but you empower the far right. You act like you hate Donald Trump, but you elected Donald Trump because you nonstop talked about him the whole time. You're literally giving him free promo every day. Oh, let's do a baby Trump. And yeah, there's free Trump promotion. That's all you guys do. But overall, not listening to what I'm saying here, not listening to the core, the basis of my argument. I'm not even saying argument because I'm not arguing. I'm just telling you what's going on in the rest of the world that they don't want to acknowledge. It's going to lead to far-right extremism because if it gets worse and worse and worse and worse and the news doesn't want to report on it and it gets worse and worse and worse, you're going to piss off the right-wing people in the United States. And I just want to say, the right-wing people, for some reason, the left is like gung-ho on starting some sort of like soft civil war. And I'm not saying there's no civil war, relax, I'm not going full Alex Jones telling everyone. But for some reason you keep trying to push and push and push and push the tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of Americans that have hundreds of millions of guns. So why in the world? It's like your whole ideology is a fail. Not only are you ruining your own political parties, not only are you causing a rise in the right wing, but you're trying to push and start violence with people who have hundreds of millions of guns, which are the last people that you would think that you don't want to start trash with. But for some reason that's what the left wing wants to do. They march around with pussy hats in the streets, and then they want to piss off the Americans with hundreds of thousands of guns, if not hundreds of millions of guns. So I'm just saying, if you don't want to see a rise in far-right extremism, consider what I'm saying. It's not going away. Illegal immigration, and migrant crisis is not a United States issue. It's a worldwide issue. It's happening everywhere. Liberalism is failing everywhere, not because people are mean, not because people are racist, not because people are doing all these things. Someone said, I'm watching from Cameroon. Great job. I appreciate it. That's what I'm saying. I get love from Africa. I get love from the Middle East. I get love from Asia. I get love from South America. I get love from Central America. I get love from Canada because it's a worldwide issue. I mean, Nigerian Christians are getting murdered every day and nobody wants to say anything. Nigerians love me because they're like, liberals don't care about Nigerian Christians getting murdered because it doesn't fit part of their narrative. But those are black people in Africa getting murdered based on their religion, but liberals and progressives don't care. So do they turn to you? No, they turn to me and say, Anomaly, help me. I'm from Nigeria. I'll say what I can. This is the most I've talked about it. There you go. But overall, please just consider what I'm saying because it's causing a collapse from the left wing and it's causing an extreme right wing rise, which is okay for now because Trump's not that bad. That's why I like Trump. Oh, Anomaly, why are you such a bigot? Why do you like Trump? Because everyone else is lying and Trump's not that bad. Trump, to be honest, he's the greatest thing I've ever seen in the modern era for the United States. I mean, the guy is great. He's hilarious. He's really not that extreme. He's basic common sense stuff. You think Trump is bad, keep ignoring me, keep not listening to me, you're going to find everything that you never wanted to see. Somebody that's 20 times more right-wing than Trump, if you don't even fathom or consider what I'm saying now. But overall, thank you guys so much for listening. I appreciate you. I'm trying to see a moderate president, so, I'm trying to inform the world about what's happening in Europe, Asia, Africa, Canada, United States, South America, that the news just doesn't want to talk about. It's not a Trump issue. It's not an American issue. There is a worldwide battle going on of mindset, of culture, of delusion, of ideology, and that's the core of what's really happening on the planet. So thank you guys so much for listening. God bless you. God bless America. God bless Africa. God bless the Middle East. God bless Europe. God bless South America. God bless Australia over there. God bless Antarctica and all the penguins. Much love. Penguins are my favorite animal. Just throwing it out there. I appreciate your support. If you'd like to support my news analysis, I'm going to post my links below. I have Donor Box and I have Patreon. Either one works. I'm going to post my free email list. I'll also post my YouTube page if you'd like to see that. I usually post live streams and shorter clips. It took a couple hours of research to really let you guys know the news that's not going on all over the world. I hope you guys like it. Check the links below again. I'll be back later this week with more analysis. I appreciate and love you guys very, very much so. Thank you guys for, making my life better and all of that stuff. So see you soon.